Thank you, governing body. I have a couple concerns, and I'm going to focus on those. My concerns are on the southeast side tonight, projects that aren't mentioned or that may get mentioned later. And I noted with interest at the beginning of the presentation, this was called a living document. And California has certainly been a living document because those streets have been in CIP budgets as 5 lanes. They've been in there as 3 lanes. And the common sense solution to California being widened is to make it 5 lanes. It is an arterial street. It needs to be just like Croco. It needs to be wider so we can get economic development into southeast Topeka. One of the problems with southeast Topeka is, unlike 470 on the west side, we have KTA, which actually blocks access to much of the southeast part of town. Unfortunately, nobody was visionary enough years ago to push for an opening, an entrance and exit somewhere in southeast Topeka, either on California, which makes a lot of sense, or on 29th. I brought that idea forward to the city manager and others 2 years ago. It's not in this project, but it needs to be done. We need to have that discussion about getting that open so we can have some economic development on the southeast side of the city. Of course, I'd like to see economic development everywhere in this city, and we're pretty much failing that, and we're going to have a discussion about that at the JADO meeting tomorrow night. But on this topic, I just talked to a developer today. He finally got back in country where I could talk to him. I really wish we had more time to have a discussion about California. But he's done a number of projects on the southeast side of town and the west side. And he said, California, if you want economic development, if you want a good street over there, needs to be 5 lanes so that he and others can actually put developments in that part of town again. And he said, you absolutely have got to get that turnpike opened up so that the people and the citizens and the businesses and commerce can use it and get on and off there in southeast Topeka. I've talked to 2 other developers as well that would like to see California made a 5-lane arterial road, and it is arterial. I note that this is broken up into segments in 2016. There's some design that's been done now. I talked to somebody in charge over at Bartlett West about 3 weeks ago. He said, yeah, we've probably got the plans for when we did it 5-lane, just like there's plans for when it's 3-lane. So what I'm trying to understand is why, when there are developers that would like to see this, and I've talked to Highcrest residents that would like to see it, why we can't have this discussion finally about making it 5-lane. And as I said, it's a living document. I got that. And I know this isn't going to happen tomorrow or this year. But we need to have this discussion because we need economic development in the southeast part of Topeka. And we really need to have that serious discussion. That's all on that. Thank you.
Moving to 6B, if the clerk would read.
B is discussion regarding the proposed water pollution control permit consent order between the City of Topeka and the Kansas Department of Health and Environment.
Yes, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm going to ask Mr. Gerber to introduce this item, and then he's going to ask Mr. Sample to present the lion's share of the presentation.
Deputy Mayor, Mr. City Manager, thank you. As the city manager noted, I'm going to make a few brief comments, and then I'll turn it over to Bob Sample, who's the general manager of WPC, Water Pollution Control, and he's going to walk you through this issue. The intent tonight is to provide an overview for the council so that the document can be voted on potentially next week, and we can get that signed and then worked out with KDHE, Kansas Department of Health and Environment. So we intend to have an open discussion tonight and bring that back for action, presuming everything goes well next week. The one thing I want to, I guess, make clear or emphasize tonight is that this is an exciting document. This is a good thing. This is the city reaching out and working cooperatively with the state and engaging in conversations that are mutually beneficial. And that sounds like a lot of buzzwords, and it kind of is, but it's really true. We've reached out and worked with them, and we've come to an agreeable solution that allows us to meet our needs, but also allows KDHE to go about their mission of protecting the Kansas environment. So with those opening comments, I would turn it over to Mr. Sample and let him walk you through the presentation.
Welcome.
Good evening. I appreciate the opportunity to come up and discuss this document that's in front of you tonight. I think I'll start by just giving you a quick overview of some of the infrastructure that we're responsible for at the Water Pollution Control Division. And we'll start out with the wastewater treatment plants. We are responsible and we operate and maintain 2 city-owned wastewater treatment facilities. The one that you're looking at is the Oakland wastewater treatment plant, which is the largest of the 2. And this one is the North Topeka wastewater treatment plant. It's located on the north side of the river. And essentially all the wastewater that's collected throughout the city of Topeka ends up at one of these wastewater treatment plants where we treat the waste and then discharge it into the Kansas River. I'd like to talk a little bit about the city of Topeka's sewer systems. Here's an interesting fact. First sewer was built in Topeka in 1878, so sewer systems have been around for quite some time. We'll start with the wastewater collection or conveyance system. There's approximately 800 plus miles of wastewater line buried under Topeka, and approximately 13,000 manholes that provide access to that system. And then 40 city-owned pump stations that assist with conveying the wastewater to one of those 2 treatment facilities. Stormwater collection system, there's approximately 250 miles of storm sewer lines underneath Topeka, approximately 12,000 street inlets where stormwater is introduced into these systems, and then 500 miles of road ditches. So as you can see with the wastewater system, the sewer lines are all underground. With the stormwater conveyance system, there are part of that is underground and part of it is above ground through the 500 miles of ditches, which conveys the stormwater. Again, all the wastewater ends up at the wastewater treatment plants. Stormwater ends up in the river, is conveyed to the river, and they are separate type systems. They are both separate systems, with one caveat, and that would be the combined sewage system. A combined sewage system is a system that was designed many years ago to collect stormwater, domestic sewage, and industrial sewage all into the same pipe. These systems were designed many years ago. It's my understanding that the last combined sewer was installed in 1926 in Topeka. There are 772 cities in the United States who have combined sewer systems. Examples would be St. Louis, Atchison, Kansas City, St. Joe. And there are some cities in Topeka who do not have, or in in the state who do not have combined sewers. Lawrence would be an example. Our combined sewer system makes up of about 10% of our total system. So with a combined sewer system also comes then what's called a CSO, or a combined sewer overflow. And I would like to show you an illustration and describe what happens in that system. If you look at the illustration, on the very left, you see the word interceptor on that pipe. An interceptor is a large sewer pipe that is designed to intercept sewage from smaller sewer lines. With a combined sewer system, and under normal dry weather flow, then the interceptor works just like it's supposed to. The wastewater comes in, moves on to the wastewater treatment plant. What happens, though, is when you get a significant rain event, then that interceptor will fill up. When it reaches its capacity, then it will start to surcharge, and then you will get what's called a combined sewer overflow. Showing on the screen is a map showing the locations of the CSOs in Topeka. We have 6 combined sewer overflows. It's important to note that they are permitted by KDHE. And we have flow monitors in each one of these sites, and we report any overflows that take place to KDHE. I'd like to go through them. They're numbered 3 through 8. I don't know how that numbering system came about, but there's only 6 of them. If you look at CSO number 8, it's in North Topeka. CSO number 8 is really a non-issue. Back in late 90s and early 2000, we did a separation project that pretty much alleviated overflows at that site. CSO number 5 at Quinton and Grove will be eliminated this year through the South Kansas River project. And that still leaves 6, 4, 7, and 3. And 3 is the one overflow that we have the most frequent overflows. And I mentioned that there's 772 other cities that have combined sewer systems. Many of them, some of those cities have entered into consent decrees with EPA to address their combined sewer overflows, and it's become costly for them. It's costing up to $1 million, even millions and billions of dollars to remedy the problem. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about what a consent order means for Topeka. First of all, it's the goal of city and KDHE to work together to come up with a plan to address our CSO overflows. Objectives would certainly be to comply with regulatory requirements, EPA's CSO policy and Clean Water Act. Also, we want to have a living document that allows us to take a holistic look at our system and then give us the flexibility to make adjustments as we move forward with our plan. And then third, last but not least, I think it's very important that we must comply with regulatory requirements. That's a given, but also I think it's the right thing to do. The mission of the Water Pollution Control Division is to protect the environment and public health through the management of wastewater and stormwater, and that's what we get up every morning and come to work to do, so it's the right thing to do. As you see, here's a list of projects that's been budgeted for. It's in the CIP. I think that this consent order is a positive thing for the city of Topeka. It keeps us on track with where we need to go with addressing our CSOs and our CSO management plan. It gives us the flexibility to look at things over the next 2 years and then regroup with KDHE and develop a long-term control plan for the future. So with that, answer any questions?
Are there any comments or questions? Councilman Hiller?
How much of this then is getting rid of our combined sewers, and how much is it just managing them?
There's a couple of ways to deal with that. We can either, to address a combined sewer, is either make sure we have the capacity to handle the stormwater that goes through it, or also look at options of offloading the storm sewer and separating them. So I think as we move forward and we do investigations on our system, we'll probably look at a combination of both. And I think that's the value of this draft consent order, is it gives us the flexibility to make adjustments as we move forward.
I ask in general, but also, forgive me, but 7 of the 8 of these are in my district.
Okay.
And so all those combined sewers
Yeah.
are going under my district as
Yeah.
well. And just trying to figure out in terms of what that means, in terms of whether in the 2 years we just have figured it out, or how much work is going to be required and digging up. Do you know yet?
No, we don't. I mean, and I think that's the value of this agreement with KDHE, is it allows us to look and see, investigate the next 2 years and figure out what needs to be done, and then we can adjust. Now, there's only 6. When I showed you that map of the CSO sites, that really is not indicative of where the overflow issues are. Those are just points that overflow. The issues are more back up in the system where it surcharges.
Okay.
And these sites are all underground.
And all in District 1, except for
Okay.
one.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
And I think that concludes our discussion items. Moving to announcements, if the city clerk could give us the rundown on the next week's agenda.
We have one ordinance that was deferred from the February 17th meeting on records fees, a resolution on the 2016-2020 CIP and 2016-2018 CIB, a resolution for revenue bonds for enterprise fund projects. We have an ordinance for zoning amendment at 2600 Northwest Topeka Boulevard for Southwest Publishing and Mailing Corporation, a petition, project budget and resolution for street improvement project T-601048, a consent order for the combined sewer overflow for Kansas Department of Health and Environment, and a discussion on the Topeka Levy Project Partnership.
Thank you. Just quickly, I'll remind people that after our announcements and public comment, we do have 2 executive sessions that the council will go into, and there will be no action taken and then we will just adjourn the meeting afterwards. So there will be nothing after the executive sessions. But moving on with announcements, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I have no announcements this evening.
Councilman Schmidt?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just wanted to briefly highlight, in the presentations tonight, we saw that our Finance Department won a Distinguished Budget Presentation Award. This is on top of the Certificate of Achievement that they won a month or so ago. And I just want to say that in my 2 years here on the council, the advancement of our finance team has been nothing short of remarkable. They've helped us go from credit downgrades and diminished reserves to exceeding our goals and having 17% left in reserve at the end of the last year. having our credit upgraded last year, having our budget processes win awards and looked at as models around the state and the nation. And that doesn't get a whole lot of headlines most of the time and a whole lot of appreciation. But I think it's important that we realize how much we've advanced in such a short time. And I want to personally extend my appreciation to our entire finance team and our entire management team at the administrative level for the job they've done in helping us achieve the advances that we've made on the budget and in reporting on the budget. So thank you.
Councilman Harmon?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I too want to echo Councilmember Schmidt's remarks regarding our financial leadership team. There really has been dramatic improvement. It doesn't happen on its own. It requires leadership and vision and commitment, and we're certainly bearing the fruits of that today. City Manager, I wonder if you could reach out to the Turnpike Authority regarding one of the items that Mr. Ledbetter had mentioned about having an exit near in the southeast Topeka area, and then also the area of southwest Shawnee County by around Auburn Road or Burlingame. You know, I, like everyone else, travel the Turnpike on a regular basis, and you know, Lawrence has, I think, three exits. There's one further to the east by Eudora, and I think there's even another one being constructed. There's several down in Butler County, Sedgwick County. Anyway, I think, not that we're trying to keep up with the Joneses, but I think there's some legitimate traffic needs to consider two additional entrances and exits in the areas I've mentioned. Just wonder if maybe you could reach out to the Turnpike Authority and see what that discussion brings.
And Deputy Mayor, if I could just clarify, we have been having conversations, Mr. Ledbetter and I and Mr. Whitaker and several other people have been having these conversations for a very long time. And
Good.
I wouldn't want to prognosticate in terms of success or where we're at in terms of reaching final success, but we're continuing to talk, and I think we're making progress.
Councilman Schmidt, did you have it?
I just wanted to add to that the MTPO, the Metropolitan Topeka Planning Organization, last year actually submitted, we meet with KDOT, they meet all around the state on projects of major importance. We submitted 2 projects to them. One of those projects was a southeast Topeka exit off of the Turnpike and possible use of the KDOR system to make that possibly even a non-toll or very low toll option for Topeka residents.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Yes. Councilman Hiller?
And I can add to that just a little bit, thank you, that a number of us actually went to KDOT's regional meeting and advocated for that. It was actually on the wall with getting little bullets and votes and so on, and I too had understood that it was moving along. So I don't know about the other one, so it's still good to check. I had noted after his comments, though, if that affects the consideration of how wide 29th Street should be, then we do need to perhaps reconsider that. Wanted to echo comments about the finance team. I just really think they're doing a great job. And one short item, and that is about the St. Patrick's Day parade and events. Hopefully everyone will be there. Every year, 2 of us have carried the city's banner at the front of the parade. I've done that for the last couple of years. I really enjoy it, but it's not mine alone. So if there is anyone who would like to carry it with me, or 2 people who would like to carry it, let me or Angela know, and we'll get it worked out and carry the banner. Thank you.
Councilman Brown? Councilwoman Ortiz? All right, moving on to public comment. Mr. Ledbetter, oh, sorry. I gotta turn to my right. I knew I didn't have anything more to say. Councilman Manspeaker, Councilwoman Schwartz.
I'll be brief. I'm not on Twitter and any other social media, but I am on Facebook. And this last week, there was something posted about the best state in America, Kansas, for its young volunteers. This was posted from the Washington Post. The habits we form as kids tend to stick with us through adulthood. That's great news for Kansas, where more teenagers volunteer actively in their communities than any other state. And it goes on to cite that we had 82.1 million hours of service in 2013, time valued at $1.8 billion. So I kind of understand now why the group picked the capital of fun, because I think our volunteers are probably having a good time doing that, and I want to encourage other people to get into volunteering. This last Sunday, I attended the reality tour from the PARS and Safe Streets, and I want to commend their entire staff, and our chief was there also on presenting, and they had some also help from community people, like AMR was there, and there was a funeral home that had a casket there and flowers from University Flowers, and the way they staged it. But this program, this is their third one in Topeka, and I hope they do many more, because it really was effective in teaching teens the reality of what happens with substance abuse and drug addiction. So I wanted to commend Safe Streets and Christy Pankratz and Dr. Kalbeck and all of them for a job well done. Thank you.
All right, public comment. Mr. Ledbetter.
Thank you, governing body. And thank you for those comments about the Turnpike, Councilman, both of you that spoke up. I want to talk about, we have a meeting tomorrow night, a JADO meeting. It's a request for public inputs. First time I've ever seen that body ever ask the public anything. But they are going to tomorrow night. I'll be there. A group that I am now representing, Citizens for Accountability in Government. We'll have people there, at least some of them that want to speak. I am very concerned about something that happened at the last JADO meeting, and that is where we had an out-of-state consultant, not that we need them necessarily for ideas, because I think we got plenty in the body politic of Topeka and just the public citizens. But they said poverty's growing in this city. Population's starting to decline again. We are losing net jobs. They admitted that to me after they got off the record. Said, yeah, when you include the state jobs, we are losing jobs here. We have a lot of serious problems that are not being addressed. We've had 13 years of playing with this same model that doesn't seem to be performing, called JADO. We have not had a new deal out of Go Topeka in 42 months that brought any jobs here. It's time to reevaluate everything they're doing. I definitely want them to butt out of our local elections, not have their CEO involved in any way. He's being paid by us. I don't care where he claims the money's coming from. Before 2013, he always said his money was paid for by public sources. And at $5 million a year, they have more than enough money to actually perform or let somebody else do the job. It is past time for an urgent, serious review of that whole structure, not just of JADO, but demanding accountability of that contractor, demanding their minutes, demanding what is going on with all this time and money being spent. How in the world and who in the world gave you permission to transfer nearly $1 million a year to the chamber? And it goes on repeatedly over and over again. I want to see ratification documents. There definitely are none in JADO. I want to see who ratified those large transfers of money. And those documents need to be forthcoming. And it's not just about that. It's about the whole attitude of the public doesn't seem to matter in this community when it comes to discussing the precious or the sacred item of economic development. You know, there isn't a person in this room that doesn't participate in economic development. And there's over 7,000 business people in this town that are not represented by the chamber that every day they're involved in economic development. There's a lot of people in this town, households, homemakers, involved in economic development. Some of the hardest workers I've seen are daycare providers. I greatly admire them. They work long hours for very little pay, and yet they provide an excellent, very needed service. And they're not respected the way they should be. And I don't like when small business people are told, you're not important by your very actions, not listening to us, telling us it's not important to hear your discussion. We don't need your ideas. We'll put you at the end of the meeting, but will you please hurry up and get it over with so we can go on about our business of listening to Go Topeka only. It's not working. We need to have a public discussion. The public needs to be treated correctly and listened to, not just talk past, and our ideas need to be implemented. And so I look forward to further discussion at the JADO meeting tomorrow night. Thank you.
Mr. Ted Mize.
Deputy Mayor, councilpersons, city manager, and the public. I run a program, my name is Ted Mize, and I run a volunteer program for the city, and we paint fire hydrants. And of course, it's spring, so it's time to get started again. And I'm here to ask your help, just like I want to speak to the general public. What we do is we're interested in public groups, neighborhood groups. When you go home tonight, look and see what your fire hydrant looks like close to your house. Because that fire hydrant being painted is kind of important. At 3 o'clock in the morning in a rainstorm, it's important that that fire department picks out a fire hydrant that's capable of taking care of your fire. And so it's kind of nice when it's nice and red, and also each fire hydrant is identified as far as its quality as far as supplying water is concerned by its colored top. And that needs to be recognized by that fire, actually the driver. He's looking for that when he's going, because he's going to go to a fire hydrant before he goes to your fire. So I'm asking for your help as far as contacting neighborhood groups. We've been doing this for 3 years now. We've accumulated a lot of fire hydrants, but we have an awful big job left. To give you a general idea, I had one on East 6th Street that was solid rust, and it took me an hour and a half to scrape it and wire brush it and paint it. And you've talked about big money all evening, and we're talking about a can and a half of spray paint is all my program is costing for each fire hydrant. Although that one that was all rusty, I spent 2.5 cans on that one. But again, I'm looking for help as far as neighborhood groups is concerned. I want you to do it in your own neighborhood, and we've got lots of neighborhoods, and we have lots of fire hydrants that still look awfully, awfully bad. So help me, and as far as contacting me, either contacting you as far as your council persons or contacting the city, and they'll get the word to me. So otherwise, any comments? Oh, and I wanted to apologize what I look like, but I've come off the streets of Topeka and come to this meeting after working all day, and I was working in an industrial area where it's awful hard to find volunteers down there. I was working down around the fire academy, so that was my general area, and you can see some pretty fire hydrants down there today. Thank you. Any questions or comments?
I would just like to thank you for, it's so wonderful for what you do. The city appreciates very much the hard work that you and your volunteers put in to help our city. It's so nice to see someone who's willing to do and is so positive about helping. Thank you.
Well, we need more people that are positive, because there's many things that need to be done besides spending money in this town. Thank you.
All right, that concludes the public portion of the meeting. We will be going into executive session, but I think we'll take a break for about 5 minutes. So look at your watches, 5 minutes, but when we return, we'll be in executive session and no other action will be taken tonight.
Of course, you're right.
It's mentorship.